America is the greatest nation on earth, and I trust that you agree when I say that. But I also believe that there are storm clouds on the horizon, and that there are real questions as to what kind of a future we'll have in this country. That's why on the front of that literature you have in your hand, it says America at a crossroads. Because I truly believe we are. And I believe that the decisions we make now, and those we elect to represent us, could well determine what kind of country we have in the future. What kind of America are we going to pass on to our children and our grandchildren? And the America we've known and loved, the freest, greatest nation on earth, what Ronald Reagan once called the last best hope of man on earth, is either going to be our future or it's going to be a distant memory. And I would submit to you that it's up to us, it's up to our generation to decide which. And I think back, and oftentimes when I speak to crowds as we travel the state, I talk about two turning points in history that seem pretty dramatic, but I don't think they're that far removed from what we're facing now. One is when our founders signed our nation's birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence. And you know, they signed and they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Everything they had, really, to give birth to freedom. And the odds were incredible. Think about what they were facing. The greatest military power on the face of the earth at the time, Great Britain. But they endured, they won that fight, they gave birth to our nation, and they gave birth to freedom in a way that the world has never really known before. Almost 100 years later, Abraham Lincoln stood on the blood-stained battlefields of Gettysburg, and as he looked out over fallen soldiers in a terrible battlefield, he also questioned whether a nation of the people, a nation rather conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, could endure. But then he challenged the people there and the people of America to a new birth of freedom. And that familiar phrase that he coined, that this nation of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the face of the earth. And you know, as I share those ideas, sometimes people say, well, gee, those are pretty dramatic turning points in our country's history, and what we're facing now is nothing like that. Well, you're right, it's not as dramatic, but I would submit it's just as serious. And I believe that freedom is every bit as much in the balance.